Good evening to you all, and thank you for joining us here on Rwanda Television News tonight. We do hope you had yourselves a productive Tuesday. Now here's a sneak peek of our edition. Prime Minister Nsengiyumva represented President Paul Kagame at a virtual meeting of African heads of state and government, together with various partners, to discuss strategies for combating the Ebola outbreak. Rwanda's Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, together with the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda, has announced that the country's gross domestic product grew by 10% in the first quarter of 2026. We are glad to have your company tonight, coming to you straight from the heart of Africa, Kigali. My name is Martina Abera. Prime Minister Nsengiyumva represented President Paul Kagame at a virtual meeting of African heads of state and government, together with various partners, to discuss strategies for combating the Ebola outbreak. In his speech, Prime Minister Dr. Justin Nsengiyumva stated that this is not the first epidemic outbreak to affect the world, particularly the African continent. He emphasized that what is most needed is a coordinated effort to build the capacity required to prevent, detect, and effectively respond to such health emergencies.
The Ebola outbreak reminds us that health emergencies do not respect borders. Our response, therefore, cannot be fragmented, delayed, or reactive. No country can stand alone in the face of infectious diseases threats, and our collective safety depends on coordination, timely information sharing, and regional solidarity. I'm happy to emphasize that Rwanda is currently Ebola-free. And this is the result of deliberate investments in preparedness and resilient public health systems. Since the outbreak was declared in the region, we have intensified surveillance at all points of entry. We strengthened screening and laboratory capacity, pre-positioned essential medical supplies. We trained health personnel, reinforced emergency response mechanisms, and we maintained public awareness campaigns.
The Prime Minister emphasizes that there are no Ebola cases in Rwanda, attributing this to the country's sustained investment in preparedness and in building a resilient health system capable of responding effectively to public health emergencies.
We remain grateful to our international partners for their continued support. Their contributions have saved lives and strengthened our collective response. However, we consider that the long-term resilience of Africa's health systems must ultimately be built by Africans for Africans. Rwanda stands ready, prepared, vigilant, and committed to working with the countries across our region, the African Union, and our international partners to build a safer, healthier, and more resilient Africa.
Rwanda's Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, together with the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda, has announced that the country's gross domestic product grew by 10% in the first quarter of 2026, reaching 6.346 trillion Rwandan francs compared to 5.276 trillion Rwandan francs recorded during the same period in 2025.
GDP during the first quarter of 2026 was largely driven by the services sector, which contributed 52% of total economic output. The industrial sector accounted for 24%, agriculture contributed 19%, while other sectors made up the remaining 5%. But what explains this growth across the different sectors? Mwizerwa Jean-Claude, the Deputy Director General of the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda, provided further details.
Export crops increased by 39%, mainly due to the good production of coffee, which increased by 86%. Within industry, mining and quarrying increased by 20%, construction activities increased by 11%, while manufacturing activities increased by 15%. The growth in manufacturing was mainly driven by 52% increase in manufacturing of metal, machinery and equipment, 57% growth in manufacturing of non-metallic mineral product, mainly cement and bricks, 21% growth in manufacturing of chemicals, here is mainly soaps and paint, and 22% manufacturing of wood and paper and printing. Within services, wholesale and retail trade increased by 11%. Transport services increased again by 11%, with air transport increasing by 7%, while land transport increased by 10%. Among other services, hotels and restaurants decreased by 16%, information and communication increased by 22%, financial services increased by 11%. Administration and support services increased by 20%, education 3% increase, while public administration decreased by 1%.
Commenting on the strong economic performance, Minister of Finance and Economic Planning Yusuf Murangwa noted that the figures should not be linked to the recent tensions involving Iran and the United States, as any potential economic effects from those developments would only be reflected in the current quarter, which is still underway.
So I would not say it's only about fertilizer, could be partly fertilizer, but what we see also is a combination of maybe good weather, climate during that season, maybe improved practices in terms of agriculture. Of course, we're also increasing irrigation. So it's a number of things, it's not only fertilizer. So it's consistent in terms of effort that the government is putting in, effort that the population is putting in agriculture, and good weather conditions. I would say it's a number of things. And you see growth in wholesale and retail trade. And it also increased by 11%. And it has been consistently increasing over time. And you look, it has been on the ranges of 10, 12, 16, 15%, 20%. So this means that people are buying more. Yeah, if wholesale and retail trade grows, that means people are buying more from retail, but they're also buying more from wholesale. So this shows that the purchasing power of people is growing.
Between January and March 2026, the agricultural sector expanded by 8%, largely driven by a 39% increase in export earnings. Coffee exports were a major contributor, increasing by 86%, while tea production declined by 3%. Production of staple food crops also rose by 3%. The industrial sector grew by 13%, supported by strong performances in several subsectors. Mining and quarrying output increased by 20%, construction activities expanded by 11%, while manufacturing output grew by 15%. Within manufacturing, metal production increased by 52%, cement and brick manufacturing rose by 57%, chemical and plastic production grew by 21%, wood-based products increased by 22%. The services sector registered a growth rate of 7%, driven by wholesale and retail trade, which grew by 11%, transport services, which increased by 11%, road transport expanded by 10%, air transport grew by 7%. Information and communication technology services surged by 22%, financial and insurance services increased by 11%, education services grew by 3%. However, accommodation and restaurant services remained the only major sector to record a decline, contracting by 16% during the period. Enora Gladys, RwandaTV News.
The Parliamentary Committee on National Budget and State Patrimony in the Chamber of Deputies has begun examining the rationale behind the draft finance law that will govern Rwanda's national budget for the 2026-2027 fiscal year. Minister of Finance and Economic Planning Yusuf Murangwa told members of the committee and the government will make every effort to address the concerns and recommendations raised by members of the parliament in order to align the budget with the country's development priorities. Enora Gladys reports.
As the Parliamentary Committee on State Budget and Patrimony commenced its review of the draft law national budget for the 2026-2027 fiscal year, lawmakers highlighted a number of issues they believe require greater attention during implementation. Committee Chairperson Honorable Odette Uwamaria explained that budget priorities can change following consultations with Parliament and other stakeholders.
Birashoboka yuko mu gihe cyo twasuzumaga imbanzirizamushinga y'ingengo y'imari.
It is possible that during the preparation of the draft budget, certain priorities had already been identified. However, once discussions begin, Parliament's recommendations, as well as views from various institutions consulted during the review process, may reveal more urgent needs. These may include projects that are already underway or nearing completion, commitments made by the President to citizens, and other priority activities. In such cases, some allocations may be adjusted to accommodate these emerging priorities. Among the recommendations submitted by the members of Parliament, 29 new projects have been proposed for inclusion in the 2026-2027 budget, while funding allocations for 35 existing projects have been reduced. Some lawmakers questioned whether these budget cuts could affect the expected outcomes of the projects concerned. I was concerned about some projects that were removed and did not reappear in this draft law, particularly the Gisagara project and the IDP Model Village project. I am also concerned about projects whose funding has been significantly reduced. I would like the Minister to explain how the government plans to ensure that these changes do not disrupt activities that have been already begun. Minister Yusuf Murangwa reassured lawmakers that the government has mechanisms in place to prevent critical projects from stalling. He explained that some initiatives may be incorporated into the medium-term expenditure framework, which covers a 3-year planning period.
Although the national budget increases every year, the number of priorities and development needs also continues to grow. During our assessment with various institutions this year, we found that even after allocating funds to all planned activities, government entities still had additional projects worth nearly 3.5 trillion Rwandan francs that they wish to implement. Those institutions were not exaggerating. Some of the proposals correspond to the recommendations you have submitted. However, these are needs that go beyond what we have already financed. At the same time, the activities already funded received an increase of nearly 12%. So after reviewing your recommendations, we managed to identify an additional allocation of almost 400 billion Rwandan francs through further consultations and reassessment of spending priorities. Where possible, we have increased funding allocations, and where immediate financing is not feasible, we will include those priorities in future plans to ensure that they are eventually implemented.
For the 2026-2027 fiscal year, Rwanda plans to spend approximately 7.796 trillion Rwandan francs, with at least 62% of the budget allocated to the economic transformation pillar. With parliamentary procedures, the Committee on National Budget and State Patrimony is expected to submit its report on the draft finance law to the Plenary Assembly, incorporating recommendations from the Senate. Once approved by the Parliament, the law will be forwarded for promulgation and publication. Enora Gladys, RwandaTV News.
A delegation from Nigeria's National Institute for Security Studies is currently in Rwanda on a week-long study tour aimed at examining the complex relationship between ethnic militias, resource competition, and national security threats. As part of the program, the delegation visited the Ministry of Defense and the Rwanda Defense Force headquarters, where they received a briefing from the Director General of International Military Cooperation at the Ministry of Defense, Brigadier General Patrick Karuretwa. The presentation focused on the theme ethnic militias, resource competition, and national security threats, and highlighted Rwanda's experiences and strategies in the addressing of the challenges. The study tour is designed to enhance participants' understanding of the factors that drive insecurity, particularly those linked to ethnic militias and competition over natural resources. It also provides an opportunity to examine the policies, institutions, and mechanisms Rwanda has employed to prevent, manage, and mitigate such threats. Speaking on behalf of the delegation, Madame Halima Zana, the Director of Studies and head of the delegation, expressed appreciation for the valuable insights shared during the visit. She noted that the knowledge gained would significantly strengthen the delegation's understanding of national security management, conflict prevention, and sustainable peace building. The visit reflects the growing cooperation between Rwanda and Nigeria in the field of security studies and professional knowledge exchange, further strengthening regional collaboration in addressing emerging and contemporary security challenges. Rwanda's Ministry of Youth and Arts Development has urged young innovators to focus on developing technology-driven solutions and address real challenges within society. The call was made during an awards ceremony recognizing outstanding youth-led innovations under the, and I quote, Connecting Youth Talent with Opportunity program. And our Gladys has more.
Young innovators showcased a range of technology-based projects, including solutions designed to improve agriculture and livestock farming, as well as innovations aimed at enhancing security and addressing other societal challenges. The projects demonstrated how technology can be leveraged to provide practical and sustainable solutions to issues affecting communities. Violet Wamutara, Country Director of Digital Opportunity Trust Rwanda and Vice President of Sub-Saharan Africa, said the organization will continue supporting young people, particularly young women, by equipping them with the skills and confidence needed to pursue careers and entrepreneurship in technology.
Our vision is beyond just preparing youth for jobs. We are investing in the next generation of innovators, entrepreneurs, and digital leaders. When you look around the room, it's very exciting. We have more than 70% young women. Inclusion is a part of the DSE's DNA. We're very intentional. We're targeting 80% young women. We're targeting people with disabilities, refugees, and displaced youth, and 70% from the rural areas. So how do we get this 80%?
Minister of Youth and Arts, Dr. Jean-Nepo Abdallah Utumatwishima, encouraged young people to remain focused on creating innovations that respond to societal needs rather than pursuing technology for its own sake.
Then when you have a good idea, you get a chance and opportunity to get a seed funding to develop your idea. We have to thank our government that allows the non-profit organizations to do this. We need also solutions in the creative industry. And a lot of jobs are being created in the creative space, in the creative industry. So we want also solutions there because it is a market, and we were looking for a rigging engineer. We don't have a rigging engineer in Rwanda, not a single one. So I want to tell you that we have new skills and even future skills. We need solutions with technology.
Winners of the competition received cash prizes ranging from 2.5 million Rwandan francs to 7.5 million Rwandan francs in recognition of the innovative technology projects. The awards were presented by Digital Opportunity Trust Rwanda and its partners, including MasterCard Foundation, as part of the ongoing efforts to support youth innovation, entrepreneurship, and digital skills development in Rwanda. Enra Gladys, RwandaTV News.
As Rwanda continues to position itself as a competitive destination for investment and business growth, the demand for skilled talent and efficient workforce continues. Solutions as they remain critical. For more than 15 years, Q Sourcing ServTech Rwanda has been supporting businesses, development management organizations, and public institutions through recruitment, workforce management, training, and HR solutions. Operating as part of the regional Q Sourcing ServTech Group with a presence across East Africa, the company plays a key role in connecting employers with skilled professionals while helping organizations navigate the evolving world of work. In this exclusive interview, we speak to Patrick Kabahanga Mbonye, Group CEO of Q Sourcing ServTech, and Martin Rushema Mugisha to discuss workforce development, talent management, regional expansion, and the future of employment in Rwanda and the wider East African region.
Thank you so much for joining us with this special exclusive interview in our tonight's news edition. I'm joined by the CEO and the country director of the Q Sourcing ServTech, who are here in Rwanda. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Starting with the CEO of the Q Sourcing, which is celebrating 20 years of its operation here on this African continent. How did the company begin and what inspired its founding vision?
When I finished my master's degree in economics and international business, I worked with the UN agency and the World Bank, and all our focus then was on helping the economy to grow. We started in Uganda, and after 9 years of work, I felt that it was time to start to look at which areas we could focus on as a person myself. So I picked one of the P's, that's people. As we know, the factors of business, people, price, place, and product. So I picked out the people because the people influence all the others. And my focus then was because of my learnings from working with medium-sized enterprises and bigger ones on policy analysis. So I started on how do I help business communities to perform better. And it looked very clear from my analytics, because that's my background. I could see that the people had the biggest marginal input and output ratio.
That's where I was going to reach. Looking back over the past 2 decades, what have been the most significant milestones you can say that the company achieved?
Initially, when we started, we were focusing only on the businesses, but the business gets the output of what we put through. So we had to look at the input of our business, who were the people. So when we started in Uganda, spread into Rwanda, and then Kenya, Tanzania, and later on South Sudan as well, it was all about the people, the skills of the people, the talent. How do these people create an impact on the businesses that they serve, on the organizations they serve, for the objective of those organizations or enterprises? So the challenges were that people are very fluid. It's a very fluid factor of production. Because whereas the person may have the technical skills, they may not have the soft skills. Or it could be a time when the person is going through some emotional challenges or some mental situations. We talk about mental health issues and stuff like that. So understanding that it's not just about finding the right technical competence, but rather the right person in the full package, female or male, was the first aspect that we had to deal with, and we got into that. The other challenge maybe I can highlight is that businesses or our clients understanding that it's not just about the technical competencies. It's also about the other soft skills. the other attributes that make a person complete for the role they're required for.
Country Director, you shared a glimpse about the Q sourcing in Rwanda particularly, but I want to know what values and the company culture have enabled Q sourcing SAVTEC to remain relevant, resilient, and trusted for over 20 years. But you can also share a little bit about Rwanda's experience over the 16 years it has been operating here in Rwanda.
Yeah, true. We have a set of values we follow while executing our job or serving our clients, but allow me to pick out probably two or three. One, as our brand starts with Q sourcing, that Q stands for quality. We have been able to maintain the qualitative work, how we are serving our clients. The other one is transparency. In whatever we do, you are able to trace the traceability, everything is transparent, following SOPs, and you can be able to account for any job or assignment that has been assigned to you. The other one is the turnaround time. Very quick turnaround time. Given time is of essence, and we've been able to serve our clients in that way. So those values, among others, helped us to excel and to be able to seamlessly serve our clients. As Q sourcing, not only hiring people, but we are mostly focusing on how to make people productive, the productivity side, to be able to upskill the local talents to a level where they can compete at a regional level. Why not even at the global level? Given Rwanda, it's an open country, and given we have that access to global citizenship, so we need to raise the bar of our talents locally for them to be able not only to compete to work from Rwanda only, but again across the region and the global. I think the CEO mentioned something very interesting, and like in Uganda, there is a component we started, but we want to strengthen it here in Rwanda, called the Assessment Skill Center, where we can even, while upskilling people on job training, they can even be certified, like this TVET, you see the Rwanda TVET board, how those people, we can upskill them technically, but again on the soft skill side for them to be able to scale. Yeah.
Well, one more question before we conclude this interview. Back to CEO. As you celebrate this milestone, what is your vision for the next 20 years, and what message would you like to share with your employees, clients, and partners?
The next 20 years and beyond is going to be how we utilize technology to benefit people's productivity in the workplace. And what we're doing there is we are introducing our own tools internally to make sure we leverage off the past, our experience in the past, building on those success stories, those success practices, and integrating them, of course, using AI and all these machine learning bits. We also are setting up an in-house learning center. Martin talked about skilling. That's for technical skills, welders, plumbers, electricians, to upskill them to deployment level, workplace level, what we call pre-employment upskilling.
And we have come to the end of tonight's English Bulletin. Thank you for sticking with us here on tonight's news on behalf of the news production team. My name is Martina Avera, and on that note, we will see you next time.